when a Chancellor was at war with the Office for Budget Responsibility, OBR, on Friday night after the watchdog published a blow-by-blow account of its discussions with the Treasury in the run-up to this week's shambolic budget. According to that account, it revealed that a series of statements in recent weeks from Miss Reeves and her officials falsely exaggerated the fiscal shortfall she faced, preparing the ground for her to raise taxes and welfare spending. That revelation turned what began as a debate over economic assumptions into a full-scale political crisis, with accusations of dishonesty dominating the headlines and calls growing for Reeves to be sacked. Political opponents accused Reeves of misrepresenting the OBR's position. They claimed she had exaggerated or constructed a figure to frame her budget choices as necessary. And once that accusation landed, the language escalated rapidly. Conservative MPs began saying she had lied to the public and misled Parliament. Kemi Badenoch called on Sir Keir Starmer to sack Miss Reeves, accusing the Chancellor of lying to justify her budget tax raid. Miss Badenoch, the Conservative Party leader, said, "Yet more evidence, as if we needed it, that the Chancellor must be sacked." For months, Reeves has lied to the public to justify record tax hikes to pay for more welfare. Her budget wasn't about stability, it was about politics, bribing Labour MPs to save her own skin. Shameful. Sir Mel Stride, the Shadow Chancellor, said, "We now know the truth." Rachel Reeves spent the months leading up to the budget claiming she would need to make difficult choices because of a downgrade in the economics forecast that was not of her making. She even let it be known she was considering raising income tax rates. Commentators picked up the same wording. Soon after, the tabloids followed. Headlines in the papers the following day were blunt, brutally blunt. Take a look at some of the front page reactions on the Saturday, 29th of November. The Daily Telegraph reported, "Reeves on brink over tax lies. She fights for job after being accused of misleading public ahead of the budget. OBR told her there was no £30 billion black hole, making raid on workers unnecessary." Badenoch calls for Chancellor to quit and accuses her of bribing MPs to save her skin. The front page of the Daily Mail on the 29th of November reported, "Liar, Reeves must go now." She knew there was no black hole in public finances, but kept that secret to hike taxes in Benefit Street budget. The front page of The Independent on the 29th of November reported, "Reeves misled the public over fake fiscal black hole. Chancellor accused of suggesting the public finances were in dire straits to pave the way for £26 billion tax hike, despite being told by Office for Budget Responsibility there was no deficit. And in fact, she had a surplus of £4.2 billion. As you can see, the headlines towards the Chancellor on the 29th were unforgiving. The pressure intensified even further when a new website was launched, sackreeves.com, a public petition urging Keir Starmer to remove her. The website is being promoted by the Conservative Party's official X account. And on the 30th of November, on Sunday morning, the Chancellor told Trevor Phillips that she was honest and frank with the country about the reasons tax rises were needed in the budget.
Did you lie?
Of course I didn't.
The Leader of the Opposition said about the choices that you made that, I'm quoting here, "For months, Reeves has lied to the public to justify record tax hikes to pay for more welfare." Did you lie?
Look, I'm a Labour Chancellor. I want to reduce child poverty. I make no apologies for that. This will be the biggest ever reduction in child poverty in a parliament ever. And I'm proud to be the Chancellor that lifts 500,000 kids out of poverty. That means kids not going to bed hungry. It means kids not waking up in cold and damp homes. And I am proud and I'm very happy to defend the choices I've made.
I just asked you did you lie? And I have to say, the answer I was looking for was no. And I didn't hear the word no.
But you also asked about welfare in that question.
No, I just asked you, did you lie?
Of course I didn't.
Good, OK. By the way, was the Prime Minister informed through all of this process?
Yes.
And he was right there with you on it all?
Yes, of course.
But her response did not quiet the political storm. The accusations continued. The headlines continued. And the calls for her to be sacked grew louder, not softer. Today, the situation has escalated into one of the biggest political questions facing the government. Would Keir Starmer sack Rachel Reeves? The pressure is real, the narrative is damaging, and the political stakes are high. But whether it leads to her removal is an entirely different matter. This brings us to the central question. Is Keir Starmer actually considering sacking Rachel Reeves? The short answer is no. First, Reeves is not just any cabinet minister. She is the Chancellor of the Exchequer, the second most important figure in the government. The Prime Minister and the Chancellor operate as a team. Their credibility is shared. If Starmer sacks Reeves, he is accepting that his government's core economic argument has failed. It would imply that the budget was based on unreliable foundations and that the government's central message of fiscal responsibility had collapsed within months. That is not a position any Prime Minister wants to put themselves in. In her interview with Trevor Phillips, the Chancellor made it clear that she and the Prime Minister operate as a united partnership.
By the way, was the Prime Minister informed through all of this process?
Yes.
And he was right there with you on it all?
Yes, of course.
Decisions
we are
made,
a
what you said on November the 4th?
Yes, we are a partnership. We have a budget board. The Prime Minister, Keir, and myself met regularly to discuss the budget and the choices, because these are the choices of this government.
The truth is simple. Keir Starmer and Rachel Reeves now rise or fall together. Their political fortunes are no longer separate because the government's entire economic strategy is built on the partnership between the Prime Minister and his Chancellor. Reeves made this point herself in her interview with Trevor Phillips. When asked whether Starmer had been kept informed throughout the entire budget process, she didn't hesitate. Yes, she replied, repeatedly. And when pressed further, she made it clear, we are a partnership. These are the choices of this government. That statement matters because it underlines the reality that the budget and the lead up to the budget was not the project of the Chancellor acting alone. It was a joint endeavour, signed off, discussed, reviewed and defended at the very top of government. This matters because if Starmer were to sack Reeves now, it would not simply be a dismissal over a miscommunication or a misjudgment. It would be seen as distancing himself from a budget narrative he publicly backed, defended and authorised. The controversy is specifically about whether the fiscal outlook was exaggerated in order to justify tax rises. And Reeves has stated plainly that Starmer was fully involved in those decisions. Removing her would therefore raise an obvious and damaging question. If the Chancellor is responsible for the claimed exaggeration, what does that imply about the Prime Minister who approved the same figures and arguments? As long as Starmer sees the budget as a collective decision, the partnership at the top is unlikely to break. Secondly, political history shows that when a Prime Minister sacks a Chancellor, it almost always weakens the Prime Minister. The most recent example is Liz Truss. When she fired Kwasi Kwarteng during the mini-budget crisis, it did not restore confidence. Instead, it accelerated her downfall. She was out of office within days. The act of removing her Chancellor signalled panic and loss of authority. Another example is the long-standing tension between Tony Blair and Gordon Brown. When the relationship broke down, it led to years of internal division and contributed to Blair stepping aside earlier than planned. Even going back further, The fallout between John Major and his Chancellor Norman Lamont damaged the government beyond repair. The Chancellor is not just a cabinet role, it's a central pillar of political stability. Removing them almost always destabilises the entire administration. Sir Keir Starmer has built Labour's economic message hand in hand with Reeves for many years. Her fiscal approach, economic style and policy choices have been central to how Labour is perceived in its handling of the economy. If Reeves goes down, Starmer's own judgment comes into question. Why appoint her? Why trust her? Why defend the budget for weeks? It would turn a political headache into a political crisis. There is also the practical problem of succession. The Treasury requires a Chancellor who is seen by markets, economists and international partners as credible and stable. Labour does not have an obvious alternative who is ready to take on the role without causing market concern. A sudden shift at the Treasury would raise questions about the direction of the government, its fiscal plans and its long-term economic strategy. For these reasons, the likelihood of Reeves being sacked remains low, but that does not mean the situation is inconsequential. The pressure surrounding her is significant and shows no sign of easing. The political narrative has shifted. The government is now on the defensive, and every new development, from polling data to economic forecasts, will be interpreted through the lens of this controversy. Even before this controversy, and before the 26th of November budget, Rachel Reeves was already viewed as the most unpopular Chancellor in modern history. Take, for instance, this article which was written before the November budget. The latest November poll showed that Sir Keir Starmer, the Prime Minister, has a net negative of 66 in satisfaction ratings, while Rachel Reeves is the most unpopular Chancellor in history, with 71% dissatisfied with her. Gideon Skinner, Senior Director of UK Politics at Ipsos, said the results demonstrate the severe difficulties facing Labour ahead of the budget as they find themselves unable to turn around a deep public sense of national decline. On top of continued record unhappiness with Keir Starmer, Rachel Reeves' satisfaction ratings have also hit a record low this month, the worst for any Chancellor since we started monitoring in 1976, Mr Skinner said. This comes in the context of persistent economic anxiety, with more people today struggling to cope than we were seeing in 2022 when the cost of living crisis first started to bite. Most voters lacked confidence that the government's policies would lead to economic upturn, according to the poll. In fact, historically, we've only seen similar levels of scepticism over the government's long-term economic plans in the last years of the Major and Sunak governments, and under Brown after the financial crash, Mr Skinner said. What makes the current crisis even more politically dangerous for the government is the timing. The polling data showing that Rachel Reeves was already the most unpopular Chancellor in modern history came before the November budget, before the accusations, before the headlines, and before the public discovered that taxes were rising yet again. If satisfaction with both Starmer and Reeves had collapsed to record lows before the budget, the numbers that follow it are unlikely to offer any comfort. In fact, they are almost certain to be worse. Last year's budget raised taxes by around £40 billion, the largest increase since 1993. At the time, the government insisted that such rises were exceptional and would not become the norm. But 12 months later, the second budget has added another £26 billion in tax rises on top of that. Voters were told the first budget was the painful reset, the necessary correction. They were told that once the books were balanced, the pressure on households would ease. Instead, the opposite has happened. Taxes have gone up again, and this time the controversy surrounding the Chancellor has magnified the sense of broken promises. It's difficult to see how public opinion will respond positively to a second consecutive tax-heavy budget, especially one overshadowed by accusations that the fiscal outlook was exaggerated. Voters were already sceptical. All of this is unfolding at a moment when public trust in politicians is already at an all-time low. Take, for instance, this poll conducted by YouGov in September. 67% of Britons feel politicians primarily act out of self-interest, while just 4% see them as doing what is best for their country. The lack of trust in politics has been a major point in concern in recent years, both in the UK and around the world. Central to the loss of trust has been the question of what motivates politicians, with the British public increasingly ready to see politicians as self-interested. Today, 2/3 of Britons, 67%, believe that politicians are out merely for themselves, relative to only 4% who feel they do what is best for their country. A further 19% think politicians do what is best for their party above all else. These figures are all virtually unchanged from 2022. One of the most significant elements quietly shaping this entire crisis is the wider collapse in trust in British politics. A collapse that may be driving one of the biggest political realignments the country has seen in a century. For nearly 100 years, power in the United Kingdom has passed between just two major parties, Labour and the Conservatives. The entire system has been built on the expectation that one of these two giants will win govern. But the public mood of the past year suggests that era may be coming to an end, or at the very least entering a period of profound instability. You can see the consequences of this breakdown in trust across almost every major poll. Voters are losing faith, not just in this government, but in the political class as a whole. They no longer believe that either major party is capable of delivering stability, economic improvement, or honesty. When trust collapses, voters look elsewhere. That shift is now visible in ways that would have been unthinkable even 5 years ago. Reform UK, led again by Nigel Farage, has seen a sharp and sustained rise in support. In virtually all polls throughout the past year, the party has overtaken both Labour and the Conservatives, a development that would have been unimaginable in the post-war period. Farage's return has reshaped the political map almost overnight, drawing in disillusioned Conservative voters, frustrated Labour supporters, and a large group of people who feel politically homeless. At the same time, the Green Party, under the leadership of Zach Polanski, is experiencing its strongest polling performance in its history. In some polls, they are polling ahead of the Labour Party. Their numbers have climbed significantly among younger voters, urban voters, and people who feel alienated by the main party's economic and environmental strategies. This is not a fringe surge. It is a sign that voters are looking for something fundamentally different. It's possible that the next election won't be dominated by Labour and the Conservatives at all, but significantly shaped and even contested by Reform UK and the Green Party. Even the Liberal Democrats, long overshadowed in national politics, are becoming competitive again in key regions. Their revival is modest but meaningful. Together, these shifts paint a picture of a country reassessing its political identity. This controversy has left the government scrambling, the Chancellor under immense pressure, and voters questioning whether they were told the truth. The OBR's revelations, the accusations from political opponents, and the unforgiving headlines have created a storm unlike anything Reeves has faced before. At the heart of it all is one fundamental question. Did Rachel Reeves mislead the public about the state of the nation's finances? The government insists she did not. Her critics say she absolutely did. Now, we want to hear from you. Do you think Rachel Reeves misled the public? Let us know in the comments below.